Hello, everybody. This is Angel Rebo with Xpnsion Network, as you know, accelerating the consciousness of humanity every single day. For those of you, that follow Xpnsion Network, you know that I am based here in Dallas, in Texas, in the United States of America. I'm known in the world of business here in the US as the CEO confidant, and I'm known in Latin America as the president and co-founder of the Wisdom for Kids Foundation, with which we help underprivileged kids in Latin America become entrepreneurs using their local resources. We have a very special guest today. His name is Mike Anthony. And speaking of a very intense life, he is the man. I was able to start reading one of his books. It's called Love That. I'm going to put it here so that we have no issues with the colors here in the screen. And it's an amazing story. It's an amazing story. It says, I'm reading the back of the book. It says, when Mike Anthony's father unexpectedly died, his family was left shocked and utterly devastated. However, when a phone call came out of the blue delivering a complete stranger's message that Mike's dad had contacted her from the other side, it kicked off a chain of events that would entirely change Mike's family's perspective of life, death, and the transcendent nature of love. Wow. Amazing. So, Mike, how do you like to define yourself? Who's Mike Anthony so that people know more about you?
I am a, let's see, how to define myself, Angel. I'm a bartender by trade. That's my sort of, how I make money. I'm an actor as well, a professional actor, which I do from time to time. And but now what I'm spending most of my time doing is exploring this world of consciousness.
Wow. So the story I just explained, just read the back of your book. How did you feel when you got that message? What was the emotion that you had at that very, very, very exact moment, Mike, that you remember?
When I got the message that he died?
That no, when you got the message from that person that you didn't know, that stranger that called you to give you that message. What was the feeling? I mean, how did you feel?
It helped I was in a deep pit of despair after losing my dad, believing at that time in the materialistic paradigm, the mainstream scientific paradigm that says that this is all that there is. And that when you die and your heart stops beating and there's no more oxygen in your brain, you're gone, period. That was really on my mind. And then this phone call came in from this total stranger, and it instantly piqued my curiosity for sure. But being having the brain that I have, I needed a lot more evidence, but it definitely pointed my life in a new direction.
So obviously, I think that life is really defined by not what happens to you, but what you do with what happens to you in your life, right? So obviously you could have taken many different paths, and you said it very, very well. I mean, you're a bartender. So you love interacting with people. You love making people happy through serving them and inspiring them and allowing them to have incredible experiences, right?
That's right.
And it's funny how that relates totally with being an actor, right?
Oh, yeah.
So with this mix, right? With this mix that I just described, what did you decide to do with that message that came from that stranger?
I decided to really look into it and see how much substance there was there for me. And I found that there was a lot of substance there. And as I went further and further into the exploration of this, it completely related to, because you're right, like my life has always been about service in one sense or another. And that is absolutely the reason I went into acting. I love the idea of us all learning from each other. And that's what acting is, right? Spending your life wondering what it's like to be other people and, being there for each other. That's really what acting is. So once I discovered through this journey that mediumship is a real, genuine, absolute phenomenon, and the evidence to me was very strong that my dad did survive, I wanted to like shout it from the rooftops. You know, I wanted to try to bring this comfort to anyone who might need it.
And how did you do it? I mean, what specific in practice, what actions did you take that started to define the rest of your life? When was that? What year was that, more or less?
He passed in 2011.
Okay, so that's almost 10 years ago.
Almost, yep. So I started to make a documentary, actually. Once I realized there really was something happening, and I found myself telling everyone the story, and people were finding comfort in the story. So then I thought, you know, instead of just telling the same thing over and over again, I'm going to start making this movie so that I can share the story that way. And making that movie, you know, a whole bunch of other dominoes then fell over in my life that took me down even more extraordinary paths. And that's what led to the Netflix show, Surviving Death, and then led me to write this book. So yeah, practically speaking, I started testing basically mediums on camera, bringing strangers to them to have them do reading so that I would know there's no way they could be cheating, right? There's no way they could be using the internet or hiring detectives or anything like that to get information about people. They were total strangers. And time and again, I was watching them know things that science says they should not have been able to know. So that's what I started to do practically, was just do these experiments with people and film it.
Okay, so you started filming experiments with people. How did you choose the people? What kind of people were you looking for, Mike?
I used the person that I first had an amazing experience with, a medium in Connecticut named Angelina Diana, who my sister happened to hear on the radio one morning doing a radio segment where she was giving readings for people over the radio. And I called that woman and I said, listen, I want to make a movie where I'm basically going to try to test to see if you're the real deal or not. And to my surprise, she immediately said, sure, I'll do that. And she signed a release form and everything, by the way, also, which, you know, that takes a lot, because a filmmaker, given enough footage, you could make anyone look amazing or terrible. You know, the story is created by the editor. So she gave control to me right away with no stipulations. And so that to me right away said that there was something that she at least believed that she could do what she said she could do. And so I had her do 10 readings on film, and they were all incredible. And then I started to look at the other lines of evidence out there that consciousness exists as something separate from the body, like people who have near-death experiences, little kids who have memories of previous lives, things of that nature.
You mentioned your sister. I don't know if you have more siblings. You guys have more siblings or not, but what was the reaction? I mean, did you immediately communicate to the rest of the family that experience that you had? Where, I mean, when you said I will go to the rooftops and, you know, shout it out and tell everybody, I want everybody to know, what was the reaction? Did they react similarly, or did they think, oh, here he comes? Right?
No, yeah,
you've had a fascinating life. I mean, a fascinating life. Excuse me. I mean, you've done so many things and served so many people in so many instances, right?
Yeah.
What was the reaction of the rest of the family?
At the beginning, they were totally on board because they had the same experience with that medium at the beginning. So they were very excited about everything that was going on. Towards the end of the book, you know, I have this experience with something called physical mediumship, which is way beyond what the average person probably considers to be possible. So I did worry when I first started to tell my mom and sisters about what I was doing with physical mediumship. I do think they thought, oh man, our son, my poor brother, his dad died and it broke his brain, and now he's sitting in rooms having seances, you know. But eventually they came around to that as well, because they had their own personal experiences with it also.
And have you found that your journey has allowed you, or is going to allow you, to serve the world even more?
Definitely. I mean, to me, there's no greater service you can do than to make life in some way better for someone, right? I remember there's that great poem by Emerson, I think, that the only measure of success is if you've even helped one life to breathe easier, that is to have succeeded. And you know, I've always loved life, right? I've always been a person who tends to be optimistic, very optimistic, and I feel that life is this beautiful, amazing thing. It has the potential, anyway, to be that. And death is so present in so many of our lives, right? It could easily be considered the saddest part about being a human being, right? Losing those people we love. The fact that I now have had an experience that proves to me without a doubt that death is not the end of life, I can think of nothing more that I'd want to share with people, because it makes, once you're not so afraid of the end of life, right? It makes the journey of this life so much lighter. You know, I feel actually physically lighter having the information that I now have.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to say that everything that happens in life always happens with divine timing. And what can I say, right? I mean, with everything that's going on in the world since like 12 months ago, right? And, you know, fear obviously is playing a very important role. And I would say that if we have to, if we surveyed 7.5 billion people right now in the planet, and we ask them what they're fearful for, number one, I think that actually that word that you just mentioned probably would be number one, which is death, right?
Yeah.
So exactly, have you reflected yourself throughout the last 12 months of what your role is in humanity, knowing what's going on in the world?
Yeah, the timing of it is, you know, feels synchronistic. It feels like there are strings being pulled to me. You know, I just happened to have the time to write the two books, first of all, because it happened during this pandemic. That was completely just happened to fall that way. So, yeah, I do feel, you know, if I have a role in anything, because of my nature, the way that my brain works, and because I need the evidence that I do, on average, the people that I speak with tend to trust what I'm telling them because they know how my brain operates. And I think they tend to trust that I'm telling them the truth, and that I really have done the work to, you know, I'm not just saying these things. I've put in the effort to know that what I'm telling you is the truth. So if I have any role, I think that's what it is kind of being this bridge, maybe this kind of everyman bridge between the very spiritual world where people have no doubt whatsoever, and then the people who are on the skeptical side of things, who might not otherwise give much credence to this other side of the spectrum.
You've mentioned something, you've used the word physical mediumship several times, right? And obviously with physical manifestation comes evidence because, I mean, we are human beings and we have those senses, right? And those senses, when we're able to sense something with them, then it's a reality, and you can't, you know, you can't argue against that, right? So let me ask you something. Have you been able, in your most recent journey, have you been able to actually physically perceive your dad?
I have, yeah. This was so, I mean, it was completely life-changing, this experience that I had. Not only life-changing, I mean, it was perspective shifting. As you said, you know, so mediumship, we can divide maybe into two categories. There's mental mediumship, which is what most people are familiar with. You know, you see that on like the Long Island Medium on television, or John Edward. It's where the person is in a conscious state and they're getting impressions and interpreting these impressions and telling them to you. In physical mediumship, the claim is that the medium goes into a very deep trance, so much so that they don't even recall anything that happens while they're in the trance. And then this substance exudes from the body called ectoplasm. Now, when I first heard the word ectoplasm, I thought that was written by Harold Ramis in the movie Ghostbusters. I was sure that that's where that came from. And it was the gooey stuff that Slimer left on the shelves, right, in the library. But as it turns out, ectoplasm is an actual substance named by a Nobel Prize winner in physiology. The guy who named it was a renowned physiologist who won the Nobel Prize in physiology. And he was able to take this substance out of the seance room and basically cut it and take it back to the lab and examine it. And many scientists over since the late 1800s have studied this stuff. And it, as crazy as it might sound to someone, it has been tested. It is real. And I, with my own eyes, saw ectoplasm form from this amorphous blob moving in this fluid way that is impossible to describe. And I'll also tell you that when this happened, I was sitting beside a New York Times journalist. Okay. I was sitting beside a woman whose word is her livelihood. What she has to be very careful about what she says, and even more careful about what she prints. And she wrote about this herself in a book called Surviving Death. So I promise that what I'm telling you is true. This stuff comes out of some people. This guy's name that I sat with is Stuart Alexander. And I watched a human hand form out of nothing, out of a mist, a foggy like mist, and then shake my friend Leslie's hand, this journalist from the New York Times. So I'm seeing this hand floating in air, connected to nothing. And then she lets go, and I watch it in front of my eyes, 5 inches from my face. I watch it dissolve back into like this fluid and then slip away and then disappear into nothing. And then beyond that, I've also seen my father's face appear over the medium's face in the same way. This stuff is sort of floating almost in front of the face of the medium. And my dad had a beard, and I saw the beard suddenly grow again out of nothing. And then he talked to me, and then it disappeared, and it was back to the medium's face again. But I know how extraordinary that might sound and how crazy that might sound, depending on where a person currently sits in their own journey. All I can tell you is that it truly does happen.
Your book, going back to the book, because obviously it plays a key role on what you're just explaining, right? It's called Love, Dad, as if he was, it was the last couple of words of a message, of a letter written by your dad, right? So the obvious question is, what do you think is the last or maybe the first letter message that your father wanted to convey for you when he left the physical appearance and the physical world, Mike?
He wanted us to know without a doubt that love survives. Love survives. Death is not a barrier to that. And he wanted us to know that he still feels that love, has that love, and that we can still love him. And that's sort of the main point for me is, I mean, do I miss my dad being here so that I could give him a big hug? Of course I do. But I now have no doubt whatsoever that he really is truly beside me. And if my eyes were set up differently, I could see him here. I really honestly believe that. So that is his message to me, to us, that our relationship has shifted, but it did not end. It just shifted a little bit.
Do you still, I mean, do you relate to him? Do you talk to him? Do you do?
Oh yeah, constantly. Yeah. Daily. I daily am talking to my dad, especially when I'm driving. I notice my dad used to take drives a lot together just to chat. And sometimes I almost swear that I could reach over and feel him sitting there, but he's very present in my life, on a daily basis. Yeah.
Why do you think that's the case?
I think it's because what we're doing here, he considers important, because I don't want to keep him from doing other things too. Right now that I honestly, truly believe that life does go beyond this, you know, I'm sure he has other stuff he could be doing. And I don't want to keep him from that. And I've said that to him. He knows that. But I still get these messages and a lot of, and like, you know, real messages like lights blinking and things like that. Because I think he's having a good time now. That's honestly how I feel about it. That like we were just talking about, there's no more important thing or important way to spend your time than making life easier for other people, you know, and nothing feels better than doing that. And if his message of survival and love can help people, it's no wonder to me that he would want to continue doing that as much as he can.
People that buy the book Love That by Mike Anthony, what can they expect from the book?
You can expect to, you know, take the journey with me. I start from the loss and the place of utter despair that we were in. And I take you through the inner workings of my brain and how much it took to convince me. You know, that's the thing. It was my poor father did not have an easy job. You know, I picture him over there, like wiping his brow and sweating from all of the work I put the poor guy through before I finally said, okay, I accept this. You are really here. So I think people will find comfort in that in the book because they'll see that this was, I did not come to this conclusion lightly. It took a lot of effort on my dad's part to get me to finally see that there simply was no other explanation other than it was him doing these things without a body.
Wow. When I was obviously having a look at different, different pages, there's some pictures, there's some photos in the book. There's some, some drawings. It's really, I would say it's really a unique book besides the story itself, right?
Yeah.
If there was a goal that you would like to, besides, getting your message across, what would be the number one goal? What, because obviously you have written this book with, if I may say it very respectfully, with the help of your dad, right?
Oh, it was almost all my dad. Yes.
Okay. So what do you think that would make your dad the most proud of about, the goal or the objective of this book being published out there?
Yeah, the only goal, like my sister and I were talking about this. If the book made lots of money, fantastic, right? We live in the material world and money is a part of the material world, but that had zero to do with why this book was written, zero to do. And when I started making this documentary, most documentaries do not make any money at all. I spent my own money making the documentary because I had to prove to myself that my dad really was still here. And I would have spent any amount to do that. So the financial gain was not a part of the equation. So the only goal is to let people know what is out there, because once you understand, we very easily, I think, assign authority to people, right? If they have some letters after their names and they have a lab coat on, we tend to easily accept what they say as the ultimate truth, and I know that I have done that. And for most of my life, I was going to be a high school science teacher before I became an actor. So, science has been a part of my life for a long time. I very easily let people tell me what reality is because they have these letters after their name. After I have seen what I have now seen, I now know that it doesn't matter how many Nobel Prizes a person has. They can be the brightest person on the planet, way smarter than me. But if they tell you that there is no such thing as anything quote unquote paranormal, they're wrong. They're not right about that one thing. And that opens up, it just opens up your whole world, right? Once you realize that science has so much left to understand, and it takes a little bit of the authority away and gives it back to you. Don't surrender your own intellectual autonomy, go out and discover things for yourself, because those scientists, many of them are authorities, but they're authorities on one level of reality, right? And they're typically, and also science is so very specialized. They might be an authority in a very specific place. But you are just as alive, and you are just as aware, and you are just as able to experience as any scientist on the planet. So, you know, that's the message. That's the message, that don't give up your own curiosity and your own intellectual ability to do some investigation.
What a great message again. If you take into consideration what's happening in the world, right, in a planetary level, what a great message to actually, you know, share with the audience. If the people want to know more about you and they want to go further, besides, you know, going to the Surviving Death series, as you mentioned before, or besides buying the book, if they want to connect with you, what's the best way to do it, Mike?
MikeAnthony.com is the website, and I have some clips on there of some of the stuff that I've been working on. And then you can also email me through there. I've been getting tons of messages, which I love getting them, you know, and a lot of them, and I want to tell people that it's taking me a while to keep up and get back to everybody, but I will get back, because I know a lot of the messages I'm getting are from people who are brokenhearted right now, dealing with a grief of one kind or another, and they're looking for help in some way. And so I want to get back to everybody, but yeah, so MikeAnthony.com is the website, and you can email directly from the website.
Okay, wonderful. Any final thought that you would like to leave the audience with, Mike?
Just that the universe is an amazing place. Keep exploring it. Keep your faith. Keep the faith. You know, this has been such a long, difficult road for a lot of people, I know. But there's light at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to get there. You know, my love and my heart is with everybody, but we're going to, you know, moving upwards.
Wonderful. Hey, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you, Mike. Really, thank you for being with Xpnsion Network today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And, you know, for everybody here with us, I'm sure that you have enjoyed this conversation. Oh my God, with Mike, as much as we have here. Thank you so much for joining us today. And, you know, we really hope that, you know, please share this interview with as many people as you can. It's not only life-changing, I think it's eye-opening. And I think that we all today need to have our eyes really, really opened. And I think that this message is extremely, extremely fresh and extremely valid and current with what is going on in the world. So again, thank you for being with us today from Angel Revo Xpnsion Network, accelerating the consciousness of humanity. I hope that you will be with us in our next shows, always here, as you know, in Amazon Fire TV, on Roku TV, and all the other social media outlets where you can see us every single day. Thank you so much, and hope to see you soon in another of our shows. Have a good day. Bye-bye.